Yes, my name is Kofi from Ghana.
Yes.
One of our poems has the portrait of a woman, a trader, one of the macula traders, on one of the prominent poems.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why did they choose that woman?
So there's a story behind it. When it comes to commerce in Ghana, Makula stands out as one of the major trading hubs in Accra. People come there to shop from all walks of life. So the women are more resilient, so they kind of use her for to represent that part of the country.
I like that. The women are more resilient, and so they're also appreciated in your country. They're put on notes. Thank you. Any other person, or do you know a country that has the face of a woman on the bank note? England. Okay. So, yes, the Queen of England, she's in the pound, but it's just supposed to show that in the world we have founding fathers, but do we also have founding mothers? Yeah, those are questions you ask yourselves. But today we're not going to talk about that. And I'd like to apologize. Somebody bewitched me this morning when I woke up. I just didn't have a voice. I'm sorry, will not annoy you, I hope. We're going to look at African feminism, media power, digital safety, and the likes. So I'd like to put on your mics. We have two wonderful ladies here joining us on this session. And just to save on my voice, I will ask them to introduce themselves and how best they can. VP, the ever bubbly one. Yes, if you could start.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Zippy Okoth. I'm a senior lecturer of film and performing arts and digital media at KCA University. I'm also a storyteller and a filmmaker, and I'm glad to be here.
Welcome, Zippy.
Good afternoon, I think, right? My name is Robbie Kokio Chen. I am a media scholar and the current chair of the Media and Communication Department at the United States International University, and I'm a gender activist through research.
Wonderful. I'm going to be moderating the session. My name is Joy Lusige. I'm a journalist. I work for Second German Television. I'm also a media trainer, and I'm also here to learn from these two beautiful women who've done research that's going to inform our session today. So to start us off, I'd like to play a video that will get us talking on our topic.
I wrote a novel about a man who, among other things, beats his wife and whose story doesn't end very well. While I was promoting the novel in Nigeria, a journalist, a nice, well-meaning man, told me he wanted to advise me. And for the Nigerians here, I'm sure we're all familiar with how quick our people are to give unsolicited advice. He told me that people were saying that my novel was feminist. And his advice to me, and he was shaking his head sadly as he spoke, was that I should never call myself a feminist because feminists are women who are unhappy because they cannot find husbands. Then an academic, a Nigerian woman, told me that feminism was not our culture, that feminism was an African, and that I was calling myself a feminist because I had been corrupted by Western books. But anyway, since feminism was un-African, I decided I would now call myself a happy African feminist who does not hate men and who likes lip gloss and who wears high heels for herself but not for men. I wrote a novel about a man who, among other things, beats his wife and whose story doesn't end very well. While I was promoting the novel.
All right. So from that, I would like to ask you, what is feminism to you?
I don't know. I want to say it from the background of where I come from. I'm a theologian.
Yes.
And the only thing I can remember about feminism is from my lecturer who once said, when we get to heaven, he will have a lot of questions to God as to why the Bible would only count on men and leave women on the side. Every other time they'll talk about numbers. So for me, I think feminism is empowerment to women in their own right.
Go to the Bible.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Anyone with a different opinion on what feminism is? Is feminism African? Like, what is being questioned there? Is it something that is an African? Go to. Yes, lady. Yes. Yes. Is feminism different, viewed differently in Europe as compared to Africa? What would you say?
Well, we're all from Africa, so
Yes.
this search for equality, which is what I believe feminism is as rooted in Africa as it is rooted anywhere else in the world. Simple human equality.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yes. I can see you're looking at me. Do you want to say something?
I think it differs. Feminism for me is somewhat personal. Depending on the lens that you view it in, feminism could be about gender within the construct of gender. So women who are born as women or with genitalia that belongs to women, or it can extend to women who are also trans and people who identify as women. So it differs. There are various scholarships. It can be intersectional. It can be normal. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that contribution. I am not a professional when it comes to feminism. I'm going to hand over to Zippy, who will take us through this session where we talk about when feminism is called an African, what is actually being defended.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Hi. Yeah, my voice is back. Yeah, so on social media, they think I'm a feminist. And there was a time I used to say, I'm not feminist. But no matter how much I say, the truth is, I am a feminist. I'm just not a radical feminist. I'm a liberal feminist. And I had to really search in my heart, like, why does everybody hate to hear that someone is a feminist? Even as women, when we just hear a woman saying she's a feminist, we start looking at them differently. So I had to go in and find out. And what I found out is, yes, we have got different types of feminists. We have got the radical feminists, and those were the original feminists who, 100 years ago? Yeah, they started the movement. And that was 30 years ago, they started Beijing and they decided, now let's put a structure to it. When Africa received the statement from Beijing, the men just saw like they are killing our culture, and that was the only thing in their mind without seeing anything else. These women want to lead, they want to be head of families, and they want to be everything else. So when we look at radical feminists, we are just thinking mainly of women don't want to be women anymore. They don't want to cook, they don't want to make beds, they don't want to be in the farm, they want to take spaces of men. But with time, because of opportunities, now we have the Marxist feminists who now say it's not about cooking, it's about education. Let's give equal opportunities. So now here we are in the new millennium. For those who are millennials like me, we knew about the new millennium since 2000, where women are now more empowered. We can go to the bank, open accounts, buy land and all that. And so now our question is not looking at whether we want to be feminist in the way they put it, because it's no longer about work in the kitchen. We have a washing machine, everything, even beating an egg, we have something to help us beat an egg, right? And we can afford it, the man doesn't even have to buy it. So we are no longer looking at feminism from that radical point of view. We are now looking at it from the Marxist point of view, where it's about equal opportunities for education, equal opportunities for employment, equal opportunities for land ownership, equal opportunities even for promotions. For those who are in workspaces, some people have been denied promotion just because you have young children, or you could still get pregnant. You're too young, you're still in the birth age category, and so we can't give you this job because you can't travel much. So that's what we are still fighting for. We're like, what if I travel with my nanny, and they're like, that's another expense for the company. But what if the money I'm bringing into this company can cover all that expense? So there's a lot of things we're looking at. But today I want us to focus on cultural and liberal feminism, because that, I believe, is what I am. When you talk about feminism being an African, like Chimamanda has talked, what exactly are we thinking of? This is where our discussions as a society stems from. I always like to use the issue of dowry payment because when you go to social media, dowry payment is where men have used dowry to tell women, if we are equal, then why do you want dowry? And some women have bought into that fact to say, I am not material, you don't need to pay dowry, I am not a good, you are exchanging me with cows. No, it can't be like that, because this is a cultural value that was supposed to make people coexist, give respect, give honor to the woman. Why? How we have framed it with our patriarchy to make it like a feminist issue. I always say that's how the patriarchal system is now trying to avoid the responsibility of paying dowry by making it dowry payment a feminist agenda. So I'm still a part of the team that says we can still continue with our culture, yet still give equal opportunities to women. Dowry must be paid because dowry is not about feminism. Dowry is about honoring two different families. When it comes to inheritance of land, that is what now we should be coming in. If the men do not want to pay dowry, then they should allow us to inherit land. So what are they ready to trade in? They are not still ready to allow us to inherit land. But what if all the girls are able to inherit land from their parents? The daughters, the sisters are able to be sure that they're going to get land from their parents. Then even as wives, we will not be so lost into thinking that maybe we have to marry up or marry down or marry parallel with the man who has, because if I already have land, why would I be married just for land? Why would I be mistreated just for land? And say, in our cultures, African cultures, we always say, where will you be buried? Statement is used to make a woman feel like it's very important, so you have to stick to that abusive marriage. And as a feminist, it doesn't matter what you say or what you do, because you don't have a place where you will be buried. So what we looked at, women can inherit land. So if men want us to trade dowry payment, can they allow us to inherit land? When we bring such discussions in the social media, you are able to see a lot of contradictions and mind thought process of people. And such discussions don't always end with a feminist agenda. They always end like, you women who are educated, you will not find husbands. It always turns into abuse. Oh, you are educated, that is why you want to make the minds of our young people to be like yours. So it always ends up into abuse. But then we look at women like Chimamanda, then also in Kenya we have got a woman like Minnie Mabona. Minnie Mabona is the first woman, I don't want to say in East Africa, but in Kenya she's the first woman elected in her home area. So she's one of the first women who were elected. A lot of the ones we know, like Phoebe came before, were nominated. But through election, Minnie Mabona was elected. But that's not just it. She was elected in her birth area. Being elected in your birth area in Africa is something very big that we do not look at easily, because you should be elected where you are married. But Millie married internationally. She married in Zimbabwe. Millie does not have children. And the society used that to put her down, because in Africa, you need to either be married or have children. But they were able to elect her against all those odds. And she's one of the longest serving MPs in this country, not just as a woman, but as a leader. So when we look at such, she has been telling women, good girls don't get the corner office, you know. Being a good girl has never worked for her. And it is because she has stood against all odds to make her voice be heard. Right now, she's the leader of minority. And she did not get it on a silver platter. She fought for it. She stands in parliament. And right now, she has talked about helping women get reproductive health, not just women, but she helped pass the law on reproductive health support. We can now legally do IVF without feeling shame for it. When we look at this being talked about in the media, then they change the discussion to be a woman must conceive, a woman must be at home. When you're working, you still need to go home and cook. Then the question is, what exactly is the space for women? So when we talk about feminism, it is no longer the radical feminism about what we are doing in the kitchen or in the home. It's about how can we still maintain our femininity, because that's where the word feminism comes from. How can we still maintain our femininity? Being nurturing, being caring, being, giving. We generally are creators as women, but still get the equal opportunities in education, in healthcare, in workspaces. Because when we fight for equal opportunities, does it take away from our inborn and natural instinct? So feminism is not about fighting our natural instinct. It's about looking at our society and seeing how we can all coexist. Culture is dynamic, it is not fixed. And so we need to evolve from what was in the 80s and the 90s. We are now a quarter years into the new millennium. So we cannot think the way our parents thought 100 years ago. We have to think differently about how we see women. We have to see them as people we can coexist with. Our digital spaces are now the cultural spaces. We no longer have chief barazas. Families nowadays are having family meetings on Zoom. People are meeting once a year, but we are talking every week and it makes us feel like we are so close. So how can we use the digital spaces to still discuss the same family issues, the same community issues that used to affect us 100 years ago? And these are issues that talk about equality. I always say, as women, our ideas in our home areas are not needed when division of property is needed, when they're talking about what to do in the home. But when whatever they want to do concerns money, then they come back to us. That alone should make us understand that we are important, and even the society should understand that it is not about when they need our money, it's about when they also need our voice and our opinion on matters of choosing even whether girls are going to get inheritance, whether girls are going to go to school, whether even the boys in that home are also going to get opportunities and all that. So when we think of representation, we think of safety, we think of hope, we think of a safe space, not just in our immediate culture, but in our digital spaces. And the media, in this case, is the space which we can share all this. We are able to create larger families by being able to share our perspectives and thoughts. But can we be able to share our perspectives and thoughts by still respecting people's opinions? But we do not have to end all feminist dialogues by abusing and degrading the woman's sexuality. Just because now, yes, most of the people here have jobs, and I can see a larger women here, and a larger number of the people in the audience are women. Now that you have a job, you're paid well, you're dressing well, but when your opinion is shared and it's very strong, and there's no other point to put you down, they use now degrading things. They say, I think the media, they say, oh, we thought women with the brains can behave better, but this is beauty without brains or brains without beauty. Can there be a word that exists that women must not have, traditionally, you either have brains or you have beauty? Can we exist in a society where a woman has beauty and brains? Can we exist in a society where a woman has everything that a man can have and still have her voice be heard? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Do we have any reactions or questions from Zippy? Yes. You can start here.
Hi Zippy, how are you? My name is Cindy Ogana, and I sit on a panel on NTV. The show is called The Trend, and I'm the oldest panelist. Right now, everyone is a Gen Z, but me, Otero, and like a typical Kenyan, I've refused to relinquish power. So one of the main reasons I'm still on the panel is because I'm very vocal about feminism. And whenever we talk about, so the show, for those of you who don't know, it's discussing trending topics of the week. Some political, but mostly lighthearted. But whenever we talk about feminine-driven issues, I get a lot of backlash. Yes, I'm passionate about it, and I try to use information and facts, but I still come across as a bitter feminist, even though I'm married and I have children. So I don't know what advice you have in terms of how I can still champion the feminist agenda without seeming like it's men versus women. Because in the conclusion of your presentation, you said, can we have discourse without it ending with bashing women sexually? Now, for me, I'm bashed as if I hate men. So what advice do you have to push the feminism agenda without it seeming like it's men versus women? Because we always, no matter how much education and facts I give, it always ends with men versus women. Thank you.
So, Andrea? We'll take 3 and then.
Hello, my name is Percy. I'm from South Africa. One of the pleasures of venturing out of the southernmost tip of Africa into other parts of Africa is being able to have these conversations around African feminism from our perspective. Because I do believe that Western feminism was pioneering and it was great, but it was not practical. It is not practical for our reality. We still believe in dowry, we still believe in having children, we still believe in being mothers. So what it tended to do, it was to distance us from our true selves. So I'm quite happy and quite, so refreshed hearing that there are voices that are embracing functional feminism versus us against them, because we are mothers to boys, we are wives, we have brothers. We need to coexist with them. Now, for my thesis 2 years ago, I focused on the impact of anti-feminist ideas against South African women journalists. The online hate that women journalists face is unprecedented, and it is getting worse on a daily basis. And sometimes it even extends into the physical. It moves from being online and they actually target you. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts around how can we promote online safety within an African context with our brothers, our husbands, our fathers, and our sons.
Okay, I'm looking forward to Tambo after that.
Morning, everyone. My name is Dinesh. I'm from South Africa. I'm sorry to say. I feel like we're dominating this one. It just seems to me that in the history of feminism, the work of feminism has been on women. And yet there is no definable, identifiable, distinct movement for men to do the work of feminism. And a simple way of illustrating that is, as women have achieved other rights, have moved into industrial spaces, for example, men have not moved into the domestic space. There hasn't been a parallel shift in the way men operate in the world. And so their standard has remained while the rest of us are trying to kind of get there. And for me, it's a question of how do we get that to happen so that feminism itself can achieve what it needs to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there any other person before? Your question will be answered right after Robbie presents. So perhaps you could just tackle the 2 questions.
Thank you very much. Cindy, I think actually both of you I think have raised the same issue. How can we still push feminism without being degraded? I always feel sometimes it's just a matter of time. Because even the noise, now that you're bashing really, the noise has actually really reduced from 10 years ago, because you started being on trend over 10 years ago. Yeah. The noise has really reduced because suddenly I think men are realizing that it doesn't matter how much they bash these women are here and getting promotions, these women are here and getting education. There's a small study that was done, like 5 years after people graduate, where are the men and where are the women? So 50%, the ones at least who are successful in life and getting jobs, the 50%, most of those men are just working. But the women, they are working, they've gone back for their masters, they have even purchased land. It is not an issue of feminism. It's an issue of women have not been used to these opportunities. And so when they find that opportunity to get money, they easily try to do what? To invest. Men are like people who have been living in a rich village for a long time. And so when they get that opportunity, they don't easily invest. They like that money is still there. And so that goes back again to now the feminist agenda. Men are changing, but very slow, even to the idea that women are going to be getting these opportunities. But even if you look at most of the people, I'm assuming are mothers, and even if you're not a mother, you have seen young children grow. When children are below the age of 8 years, young girls really develop faster in terms of how they think, their communication, how they talk. Men are like boy children, they don't develop in terms of their communication and interaction faster, and even that now translates into accepting change and perceptions. And this goes on with men throughout their life, that men don't easily adapt to change. So it is not like they're not changing. It is just that the way they are changing is slower. And the other thing is, because this is a very radical issue, you are finding right now a lot of fathers are allowing their children or their girls to marry late. And that may seem like something very small, but it is a big change. Fathers are not pressuring their daughters to get married before the age of 25. People are allowing their children and girls to get married after even 35, 40. That's already a mind shift, and we cannot take it lightly. It's a very big difference. So things are changing, but not just at the pace that we should be changing. If it was the other way around, that men are the ones who are the minority, and they are the ones who needed to be empowered, I can tell you we could still be 15 years back because of the same study of men adapt to change slower. But because women are adapting faster, right now we need to be looking at how to make men catch up. When it comes to what we need to do, I think we need more training on ethical issues. A lot of journalists, I'm sorry to say, do not take ethical training very important. And yes, I am a lecturer at the university, and we have in a program of like 48 units, we have got only 2 units looking at ethical issues. And I think maybe we need to rethink that, because right now with the cyberbullying and where information gets out before it passes through the right people or before it's even checked, and even using AI wrongly, before fact-checking and the data press, then we need more empowerment and ethical training to understand how to protect both the audience, the people reading or watching, and even the parties involved. Because I'm a Rotarian, but I think this one affects everyone. Is it the truth as a journalist? You need to ask yourself that. And is it fair to all concerned? When you put news there, the person you're talking about and the reader, is this factual and fair information to everyone? So maybe ethical training is good. As a country, last year we passed the, is it a bill yet, on cyberbullying? And a lot of people have not read it. They just read the title. But if we were to start implementing that, then I think as a nation, Kenya, we are way ahead. So I think we are on the right path. Things are changing. It's only that it's not changing as fast as we want it, but there's hope. The other one, Robbie will answer.
Just to connect the two, what happens when power goes digital? We're going to have Robbie taking us through that stage and also answering your questions on what needs to be done.
Thank you. Just to talk about literature around men and the struggles they are having. I think I've done about two researches on the what is it called? The Men's Conference in Kenya. I don't know whether you're familiar. It started in South Africa. And the findings were very interesting because I actually went to Facebook and just before, because some 3-4 years ago, just picked out, what the conversations were. And really there is a movement that is not being vocally discussed. where men are protesting. Men are protesting through conversations. And that research just indicated, people look at it as an economic burden, feel like they are being suffocated in relationships. And I think as we go on TikTok, I saw the other day a very popular influencer called Juguna, complaining that how women are suffocating them and all that. There's also another study I did on misogyny, given by Amaretz. Amaretz is a male activist who talks about masculinity. And what came out, the use of misogyny was key in empowerment of men. But over time, if you look at his content, it moves towards now maybe healthy thinking, positive thoughts around certain behavior types and such. So the body is there, but it's not moving as much. Of course, gender studies from a woman's perspective is more funded, and it is more imbibed even in the SDGs. So you find that not a lot of emphasis is being put on our counterpart. So just to take you through, what just a personal to the safety element, and specifically to safety and protection on digital spaces. I'll take you through the history of literature around that. I think since 2016 I've been involved, and I've actually done several studies around online violence. That is what it was known as in 2016, moving on to tech-assisted GBV, then moved on to tech-facilitated GBV, and in the last one here it has moved on to TEFSIA, tech-facilitated sexual exploitation and abuse. So what I like about TEFSIA, it really, really makes, violations vivid and categorizes them in such a way that you can easily recognize them as a person. Whereas literature informed, maybe, when you're looking at GBB, informed things like, body shaming, shame aspects, But TEFSIA really, really talks about actions that really relate to that. And I'll just break TEFSIA down into 3 main categories, that is digital cyber trafficking. And we shall demonstrate here in a bit what that basically means. You have luring of women or even men, in this case, through fake jobs, direct messaging, dating apps. And of course, you are relocated to a place and then abused from that point. Then there is cyber extortion through sextortion, where kind of if you're there's a vulnerable point in your life, somebody can exploit that, especially if it is sexually related or shame related, and they can get money out of you so that they don't expose you. And lastly is image-based abuse. Of course, send me your nudes, those kind of things. And then if you disappoint me, then I will share your nudes to the public. I think that is now old news because, it's been done, but people are now a bit resilient, but it still has a negative effect. So, Joy, maybe you take us to the next slide, and I'll ask us. I'm sure some of the stories are international, and some of them are local. One of them is local, and we want to identify out of these 3, which one is sextortion, which one is cyber trafficking, and which one is based on image-based abuse. Before we go into the details. So just to give context, there's a Russian going around Africa. We know the story. He's now gone to Asia, so he's doing the same thing of luring women. Why am I giving you the answers? Right? Then this one was an encounter between this lady and a diasporic Kenyan, and she was videotaped in a compromising situation and was shared. And the last one, I think that's famous. This gentleman, for all that he has done. Some people say he's a great, person. So maybe just to look at the 3, which ones you think fall under digital cyber trafficking, cyber extortion, and image-based abuse?
Anybody would like to try?
I think the first instance deals with sextortion, and there are a lot of issues that are there from a privacy perspective. One, there's no consent between the two parties. He's also recording in private spaces with meta classes. There's also an underlying issue of the unregulated power of big tech that's there. So it counts for me as extortion, and there's a lot of issues related not only to his conduct, but also the unregulated power that big tech has in Africa.
So do you think he's being extorted for some money? Is there a transaction?
I think he's extorting people and not necessarily being the victim. So in essence, he's the one who is wrong, because none of the parties that are there were aware of what's happening.
Okay, but there doesn't seem to be some like blackmail of sorts. Yeah, so maybe not extortion. Let's see another category it might fall. Another category, the Russian guy who's going to the market, finding any type of woman, and the women follow.
I think it would fall under racketeering or something sort of like the PDB kind of thing, where, but it's a bit different. Here, it involves, first of all, the dark web. These are guys who, Russia, Russia has it's known for spying, and there are like hackers involved, and
let's just put it into context. He just goes to the market, talks you,
exactly,
and you follow him, and then goes and takes you to another place.
Yeah, he was. I would say he was a bit right, extorting, because he's luring other women, without that. Okay, most women will say they were victimized, and it also showed another picture of now how modern women, how we see foreigners, and there's the stereotype of like, hey, this person has money, so if he's vibing me, let's see where it goes. But now the mentality, I think it's because of societal pressure as well, because we have Instagram, we see celebrities having money, going for vacations. So who wouldn't want that? Amaniaji ladies, you would want to be taken for a vacation anywhere.
So where does it fall so that we cut it short? Because any movement from one locality to the other that results to abuse.
Digital cyber trafficking.
Yeah.
Exploitation, yeah.
Digital cyber.
Is it a bit of both?
It could be a
bit
of both, but more or less traffic.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to note, the work, fake jobs, websites, direct messaging, dating apps, WhatsApp and Telegram, especially Telegram. Please join my Telegram. I'm not sure what happens at Telegram. There's that always. What about the second story? This is this lady. She was in a drunken situation, and of course the interaction was videotaped and shared on TikTok. And images of her, like her dress, the behavior was exposed to the public. So where do you think that falls under the 3. Image-based violence, cyber extortion, or digital trafficking. That's why I liked it. It's really, really, you have to really think like, okay, where is this? So I'm sure she was wearing some huge kind of dress and high, and she was very high. She was kind of sex talking the guy, and then he put it on social media, and it was just, everybody was talking about it. Where do you think that, besides the actual sex act, where do you think it might fall? Harassment, but because we can identify her, everybody knows her now. She's even said, the
spirit of traditional feminism, fundamentally for me, is consent. And I do not have the facts with any of these cases, actually. If the woman did consent, because for me, that is the genesis of everything else. Am I consenting to this? Do I have a say in this? Am I enthusiastically consenting, or are they not?
No, I mean, to videotaping, no. No, they were just, it's like you and me having a conversation, okay, and just, because you're so drunken and you're imbibed, I'm taking a video of you and, yes. No, the girl was not vulnerable, let's be honest. She was a bit seductive, but it was put on video and it was put out to the public. So just to shorten it, where there's image recognition, it could be image-based abuse. And then the gentleman there, everybody knows, with him he had so many affairs. What I don't know is whether he was extorting, because he had these relationships with his peers and so many women who were senior, and then of course he would record that, and to some extent share and maybe blackmail them. So those would be the three basic categories, rather than just saying GVB, because I don't see how you can beat somebody or can you? Like physically, no. But you can cause mental, distress. You can cause instability. You can cause shame. You can cause. So those are the three major ones. If we had more time, we'd go through. Maybe just we can go through the slides just so that we can move on to now. What are the coping and mitigation strategies that people have developed? And I'm referring to recent studies, one on technical facilitated violence against women, and number two, based on a study that I did with sexual minorities on digital coping strategies. So just move on, please. So various marginalized groups, if you like, that could be women and people of sexual minorities, amongst others with disabilities, depending on where you come from, face, different types of, risks, including risks around digital governance, where your speech is even controlled within those digital spaces, institutional storytelling, where you have negotiated visibility, where you basically are in a position where your voice shouldn't be heard. And even if you're in a space of decision making, find that there are ways to kind of silence the way you're going to speak. And then harassment and stigma. Of course, we've talked about that. Digital censorship of not just even minorities, but she's just given you a life experience. Because you're a woman of prominence, you therefore not kind of demonstrate what is expected of a woman to be silent. And then technology facilitated violence against women in public. Moving on. So this is from the women's study. It basically talked about, our platform tools providing proper safety for women who are engaging in digital spaces. And of course, there is temporal relief from blocking. What are the other things we do? We block or report. We mute. We report. We don't even know who we are reporting to, isn't it? And such. So they provide, yes, temporary, but not really holistic. Then structural limitations where perpetrators circumvent safeguard harassment. You block someone, he appears in another, or she appears in another version. Or this person picks your your number from online and keeps on you. There's one man who married me in his mind. He bought me a number in another place and insisted in his, he was like, you must go to Narok and be on the farm. I don't even know it. So psychological impact where embarrassment, because you've been shamed, forces you not to really engage on those spaces. Normalizing responsibility. Harassment is normal, isn't it? We'll say, oh, that girl, oh, we know her, but her dress was short. Or she was seductive. Or so it's normalized, that you can be shamed online. Then heightened withdrawal, you disengage totally. There was a time I was ambitious, I thought I would be like a political leader and joined a group from my village. And they started, from identity, from marriage, from, so many things, and I just put in that space. And then strategic withdrawal, you limit visibility to enable continued participation. And I've shown you how. And boundary enforcement, women controlling exposure, censoring which photos you put on, who sees your photos, when they see those kinds of things. Basically, let's move on. Now, with the study with the sexual minorities, it was very also more or less the same, but they had very interesting survival tactics, if I can share. Some of them used artistic expressions. I think in the dressing, in poetry, in plays, they are able to imbibe their identity into those spaces. Then they calibrated disclosure to manage risk, not outwardly going to say what they are doing online, focusing on what they may be worked on. Another one that was very interested was coded communication. People who are from sexual minority groups kind of communicate online in their coded language, develop their own lexicon, and are able to do that. Encrypted platforms where they move from maybe WhatsApp to Signal, or minimize or create communities, or go to Reddit, where they can communicate as a community. And then pseudonymous accounts. That was interesting. If they felt attacked on their legit account, they would use their pseudo account to counteract that narrative, which I found quite interesting. Let's move on. So what then do we need to do in terms of to make sure that there is less self-censorship from a platform-based perspective, and also from narrative-based? So you have algorithmic biases. To note that there are biases that might, be led by algorithms, and that way it kind of suppresses identity. There is, what is shadow? Shadow what? Yes, for example, shadow banning. And then with the platforms, there is this inconsistency in enforcement of what they say are their community standards. And then moral narratives, disclosure, public disclosure frames certain identities as controversial. I don't know whether some of you came here because there's some controversy. Maybe among you might think we are controversial or the topic. So in that case, it's given a negative kind of vibe because of the topic. And then legal ambiguity, following colonial era rules or laws to create uncertainty about lawful expression. Let's move on. So what then is resilience in digital spaces? We need to look at how do we deal with governance failures. And like Zippy said today, the law that we have for digital safety isn't, or data protection is enforced, then it means it makes our lives easier. Structural limitations, how do we mitigate harm, but not remove ourselves from those spaces. Conditional visibility, try to normalize being visible beyond, being challenged on online spaces. Encryption practices, like I said, coded language, working with communities, and then remaining digitally present without really censorship. So how do we then just have a kind of ecosystem to ensure that there is individual coping and also systemic reforms? There is trauma-informed infrastructure where we respond to psychosocial consequences. And I've seen in Kenya specifically through the years, there's been a lot of efforts to curate spaces where women can talk about their traumas online, have online counseling as such, transparent algorithmic governance. There have been efforts to ensure that there is more engagement of platforms so that there is reduced ambiguity and inconsistencies, clear appeal processes within the system, and then individual resilience, surviving within unchanged power structures. So I think Dr. Zippy has really talked about how women have taken advantage of the situation where many men might have had access to material resources, but women have found ways to kind of acquire spaces where they can get those resources. Then right-based frameworks, embedded equality, and we should embed equality and non-discrimination, intersectional policy design, recognize overlapping vulnerabilities. So, for example, we were struggling to agree whether this is sextortion, this is, so how do we make it recognized? How do we say, for example, the Russian man who was treating women is, guilty of sextortion, trafficking, etc. Good. So this brings us to the last part, which is the Mentimeter. Unless you have any questions that you'd like to ask before we move on to this aspect.
You please pass the mic to
I would like to actually comment on the presentation. It was very clear. I actually mind blown. Okay, I'll talk about me. Sarah Busibori, I'm autistic, and I also have ADHD. So I'm in a community where we're underestimated, put low. Also in terms of SRHR, of which I think it really affects us. I've had a story or stories. In fact, they've also been on the news where a woman who has severe cerebral palsy, and she was raped by her uncle, and also still lives with her caregiver. So, and she also has challenges. She's not aware of herself and like what's going on, right? She's also wearing diapers because she hasn't passed that stage, yeah? And then to make it even more difficult, she became pregnant and she gave birth to this child. So now her mother was forced to have the responsibility of being a mother. How do we like raise or amplify SRHR and also the raising awareness in terms of women empowerment into our community, because we're still going through a whole lot, like from grassroots. It's, yeah, I'd like someone to actually um, respond to that, because we're really hard.
Part of study on TFGBV focused on women with disabilities. So of course there were those concerns because they are basically can easily be silenced because of their inability to probably speak, to probably hear, or to probably see. So there were examples of that. But what I think always opens eyes to discussion is research. That's what I think. And that's where, academy meets programmatic, activities in the civil society. So I personally have supported civil society in research around gender, violence and gender issues and such. So I think as we go along, just the way the body of knowledge has grown from, online violence to now with SEER, I think as we go along, studies need to be calibrated to speak to those specific areas. For example, if the civil society that is really working with people who have such challenges, mental challenges and such, then they should really look at, abuse and research that really heightens the abuse. And then discussions like this then bring it forth, and then people are able to kind of have conversations. Let me give you an example of 2017 when we did the first TFGB summit. It was in a hotel somewhere, and we had the Milis, we had the Mathais, we had the Wangari, Martha, we had Esther Prasad. So it heightened the discussion around body shaming, public shaming, blah, blah, to the extent that when Robert and I shamed the sports minister, Amina, even men were telling him, this is body shaming, this is public. So it's something that needs to start from actual, what is the position on the ground, and that's done through research, and then some publicity, some dissemination around that, or storytelling around that, so that people can have those conversations. So I can say it's unfortunate maybe people have not paid too much attention to those stories, but the best way is to always start with data that can now inform conversations along.
Sorry, I just want you to clearly outline how the trafficking happened.
Posting fake jobs.
Yeah.
We will receive information that is this job, please go to this venue, and then from there you're captured and trafficked to another place. That's basically the context. Because you started, the point of communication started online. What about dating apps? Okay, there's been an incident, I think there's a lady who went on a date at the ICC and was thrown from the top floor because of refusing to move from one venue to another. Then if you're talking about dating apps, I'm not so familiar how that moves, but I understand you meet up online and you agree to meet, isn't it? And probably you're taken to a location where you did not intend to end up. Or, for example, you are intoxicated and such. So that would be the context within which. Does that explain, answer your question? Yeah, that's basically it. We don't want to complicate it into the human rights trafficking. No, it's just basically, am I supposed to move from one place to another without my consent? And what happens to me there is not, you know, what I anticipated. So great. I think we can just move on to the Mentimeter. Please just take in the code or the what is it called? It has disappeared. The barcode you should put on your phone. And then answer the question. That's the number that you can also type in 47941617 and answer the questions in terms of reclaiming the digital space.
There's no question.
There's no question.
No. When we go on the when we click on the barcode, it's just reclaiming the digital space and a box for answering, but there's no question. Unless that's the question.
Yeah. Okay. That's the question. Because if safety were default digital Africa, platforms would, what platforms do, what laws change, what media will do, what culture, and what men will do. Have we got it? Yeah. Because we're supposed to now start seeing the answers coming up. So as you answer that, are you able to see the answers? Sorry? Sorry?
Are we able to see the answers?
Yeah, sorry? But are we able to see the question?
Yes. The question is not on Menti. Menti is just an answer.
Okay.
The question is now what? Yeah, that's just how it is.
Just skip to the next. Because I put them on
Yep. In the interest of time, perhaps we could have people just responding. We'll take the mic around. We're experiencing technical difficulty at the moment. Anyone would want to respond to no question? Yeah, you can be creative. Platforms will do it. Or what kind of laws would you implement as if you had the government, or what would the media do? Culture, man. Anybody? Yes.
Okay, let me go back to my notes. So, platforms would develop and roll out safety tools for women that are pragmatic and user-friendly, and not just tell us to block people and then do nothing about it. They ought to follow up to our complaints as well. In addition to them creating the tools for us to stay safe, they need to follow up on our complaints. Laws would recognize that online violence against women is the same, it falls under gender-based violence and ought to be treated as such, and such transgressions ought to fall under the gender safety laws of the country. The media would highlight on a regular basis online safety protocols and cover more stories around women and safety online, especially the women who've gone through it, their experiences and how they got over it or got through it. Culture would adapt and men should catch up.
Great. Thank you. I'm looking at the platforms now, how they've turned out to be child's play. There's, very little oversight when it comes to when Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, what they're doing to these platforms. It's more of a marketing place to make more money. But I hope that some of these recommendations are what I'm going to take away and work with partners. Okay. Was there a hand somewhere? If not, I think, Zippy, we can go to the next.
Yeah, we think this is just to conclude our session. Thank you, Robbie. We move away from that. Yeah, considering also the comments that you've shared, we just know that to reclaim the digital space, and we want us also maybe to leave this space having that same notion. She has just shared that culture should be safe, our platforms should be safe and all that. So yes, our digital Africa must be safe to allow for free expression and to also punish offenders. You know, when you talk about punishing offenders, we only just think of real big criminals, but here, in essence, we are having a lot of mental health cases because people are being harassed on social media, they have no one to talk to, and before you know it, somebody died in their house, nobody knew, and all that kind of stuff. So it must be safe to punish offenders, and we must live in a society where some of the digital crimes or offenses should be able to be flagged down even before reporting. Like the other day I posted some photos of me in the beach in Mombasa. Somebody said, "I will rape you."
Oh my God.
Yeah. First I was like, do I block, do I delete? I'm very fond of blocking, deleting. Then I said, no, I'm not blocking or deleting this one. So I commented, Department of Criminal Investigations, kindly come here. Yeah, I didn't see that comment again in the next 1 hour. Because I said, if we are going to block and delete them, they're going to continue writing that. So I said, let me just call DCI Harper so that they deal with it. So we need to also maybe on our platforms, how can we flag down? You can flag down words actually in your comments. If you go to your Facebook or TikTok, you can, there's a place on the settings where you can choose to flag down words on the comments that if people use some sensitive words to you, they will either be hidden or they'll not be able to comment. So you can also use some of those features on your social media spaces. Our digital Africa must be inclusive to give equal voice to men, women, and I say even children. Yes, children should not own spaces in the digital media. But like Instagram allows 16 years and above. A 16-year-old is still a child. So can we be able to allow, if someone is posting, even as a parent, something about children, can we allow children to be children? If you post photos of your child, it is totally wrong for somebody to say, I can't wait for them to grow up, then I marry her. You know, that is somebody, that's a defiler right there. So we need to be very sensitive about comment because we are not going to stop posting our children just because there's some online offender. And Africa, we like saying, they'll see you with a bad eye even on social media, you know. We should not be living in fear because of what people will do, because some people might not eat because there's a witch, somebody, their stomach will pain. With that is the same perception you're taking to digital space where you can't post your success because somebody else will see it and, you know, do things. We must be able to be very safe, inclusive, and accountable. So media is, there are these platforms where gutter press, they post things. I think me have been cyberbullied thoroughly. They post things, but it's a gutter press. The name of the writer on that gutter press is not there. You Google even the owners of this gutter press, it's not there. But the issue itself is defaming, so bad. So I think last year sometime they defamed me, and I said, I'm gonna defend myself. So I defended myself and I wrote something there. After that, my inbox was, I think I had like 12 messages of serious people like, if you truly find even the contacts of these people, kindly just call us. You don't even need to pay. We'll help you pay for that court case. We have not found. I even got a lawyer. 2 lawyers were ready. They have not found the lawyers, the owners, or the writers. But that article, each day on social media, they post like over 10 defaming posts daily. Yet you cannot trace them. As it is, ICT posting, they go to cyber places to post. So you can't even trace. If you trace tracing a cyber post, can DCI help in such cases? You know, because a lot of families are getting hurt, a lot of people are losing jobs because of defaming kind of information. So we must also be feminist. Even men, you must be able to fight for spaces for your sisters, for your daughters. I realize when you say fight for spaces for women, men are like, who are you? But when we say fight for spaces for your daughters and your sisters and your mothers, there's a softness that comes in men's hearts when you tell them that. So maybe our messaging should change. As feminists, we need to tell men, fight for your daughter, fight for your sister, fight for your mother. Because when you say women or wives, that is the least of their worries. Then we should be sensitive to culture. Culture is dynamic, but we need to allow good norms to exist to promote social values so that even as feminists, some of these cultural norms were meant to protect us, were meant to give us honor, they were meant to give us a voice. So we should allow even our feminist approaches to still give room for us to be humane. Thank you.
Thank you, Zippy, for that. And just to wrap it up, because it's soon lunchtime, visibility is power, but for many women, visibility is also danger. Just to wrap it up with Zippy, resilience is powerful, but resilience also can be exhausting, yeah? So should we not romanticize any, the strength of those who are forced to endure the kind of things that you go through? Yes.
Will be romanticized. Yeah. I think I don't want to use the word romanticize because it might be used as flattering, you know.
Right.
But I think we should actually use powerful stories of people who have overcome, who have survived, because it helps encourage the next generation, or rather somebody else might be going that. But even as we do that, we need to still give measures and ways in which people can still feel safe. Yeah, because not everybody is going to have a voice and have the strength. So for that person who's not able to have the voice and the strength, what can they do? So we still need to have policies and frameworks that can still protect those who don't have the strength.
Okay, thank you. And Robbie, what does your research tell us that we can no longer ignore?
Hello? We can no longer ignore ourselves. Yeah. That's the bottom line. You want to be free to express yourself without being judged or being shamed or being taken to task for being who you are. And the idea is when you talk about equity and equality, you're just saying Can we both access resources, and can we also make decisions? Because we are human. So I think it's more or less like the question, not the question of deeming yourself, but just being able to have opportunities, to have freedom, to be who you want to be and say what you want to be, whatever space it is, and not be judged or be shamed or being harassed so that you can minimize or disappear, whether you're male or female or whether you have any other challenge.
All right, thank you very much. Let's give a hearty clap for these two wonderful ladies. Yeah.